Hi everyone, welcome to this lecture on the poem In a Station of the Metro by Ezra Pound. In this session, let's discuss Ezra Pound and his contribution to American literature briefly, and also let's make a short analysis of the poem In a Station of the Metro. Now, to begin with, let's see who is Ezra Pound and his major contribution to American literature. As you all know, Ezra Pound is widely considered as one of the most influential poets of this 20th century. He was born at Hailey, Idaho Territory in America to Quaker Puritan parents. Later, at the time of his education, he met Hilda Doolittle and William Carlos Williams at the University of Pennsylvania. They were great friends, and they all together formed the new movement, Imagism. We'll talk about this in the coming part. Then later he came to England in early years of the 20th century. There he made a close friendship with the W.B. Yeats, especially after arriving in London in 1908. Then, besides, you could find the influence of Japanese traditional verse and no theatre in his writings. And those students who have learned world drama might be familiar with no theatre. I will briefly define what is no theatre to others. No theatre is a major form of Japanese theatre. It is simple in style. It's more based on music and dance. So this is no theatre. Okay, it is a traditional or what to say? It is a classical Japanese theatre form. Okay. Now, apart from that, he formed the Imagist group in 1912, and this signaled a new literary direction for the poets. But the actual idea was by T.E. Hume, but this was made possible by Ezra Pound. Then, another important feature of Ezra Pound is he experimented with language. For him, to change the structure of your language is to change the way you think and see the world. That is, to him, poetry was the embodiment of melody, images, and provocative thoughts. And you know that this is the basis of most good poetry. But here they produced an originality in Pound's verse or poem, which Eliot considered lacking in most poetry of the past century. And hence, because of this quality, Ezra Pound is considered as one of the most influential of the 20th century poets. Now, let's see Pound as a modernist. Pound coined a famous motto of modernism, and that goes like this: make it new. Here he encouraged writers to reject traditional forms, techniques, and ideas, and this resulted in free verse. And this is the basis of Imagism. That is, he uh, encouraged writers to break away from the traditional forms of writing. His Imagism also called for verbal concentration, direct treatment of the object, and expensive rhythm. Okay, we'll talk about this in the coming part again. And besides that, he edited The Wasteland in 1921. And I'm sure you all are familiar with the author of The Wasteland or the poet of The Wasteland. It is, definitely T.S. Eliot. Now, again, after living in London till 1921, he left London and went to Paris. Uh, there he lived for almost 4 years, that is from 1921 to 24. There he met and helped young poets like Hemingway. And during this time, the war had shattered Pound's belief in modern Western civilization. He also saw the vorticist movement coming to an end, and he doubted his own future as a poet. Um Later in Paris, he entered the intellectual circles of Dada and Surrealist movements, and you know that Dada and Surrealist movements are part of avant-garde movement. Um, I'll just define what is Dadaism and what is Surrealism. Dadaism means it's a movement in art and literature based on deliberate irrationality and negation of traditional artistic values. I repeat, Dadaism is a movement in art and literature based on deliberate irrationality and negation of traditional artistic values. This was first formed in French in 1980. And similarly, surrealism means the principles, ideas, or practice of producing fantastic or incongruous imagery or effects in art, literature, film, or theater by means of unnatural or irrational juxtapositions and combinations, which means to make art, any form of art, uh, unbelievable or fantasizing it. And this came into existence during 1925. And the most important authors or the writers under this movement, these movements were Marcel Duchamp, Tristan Zara, Fernand Léger, Ernest Hemingway, etc. Then, after living for 4 years in Paris, he got bored with the life in Paris and he left for Italy. There, he lived from 1924 to 45. During the World War II, Pound lived in Italy and was supporter of the dictator Benito Mussolini. His admiration of Mussolini resulted in his being charged with treason at the end of the war, and Pound was arrested by American troops in 1945. Later, he was considered unfit to plead. He was held prisoner in hospital until 1958, a forlorn scapegoat for the sins of fascism. But later, he died in Italy in 1972. In short, he was always a center of controversy because of his iconoclastic views on everything from poetry to economics. But his influence on contemporary literature was exemplified by the homage paid to him by T.S. Eliot. Now let's see the major works written by Ezra Pound. You could you could see three important collections. One is Reposits. It was written in 1912, and this work was published after he befriended with W.B. Yeats under his influence. This is the first images collection of 25 poems. In this, you could find translated works from Old English and Italian cantos. Then he wrote Sylvan Moberly 1920. It consists of 18 short parts and it describes a poet whose life has become sterile and meaningless, just like that of Ezra Pound. Okay, and this marked his farewell to London as well. And the last collection is Cantos. It was from 1917 to 1969. Pound's life in Italy was largely devoted to writing the cantos, which appeared part by part, and were always in the process of being revised. Eventually, they remained unfinished. You could find 120 section epics so far. Okay, that's all about his major works. Now, let's go through his important contribution or important movements in poetry, like Imagism and Vorticism. Now, let's see what is Imagism. Imagism means direct presentation of images or word pictures. The image, that is, image means that which represents or which presents an intellectual and emotional complex in an instant of time. I repeat, image is that which presents an intellectual and emotional complex in an instant of time. For example, if you are imagining a pen, in an instance you get the image of pen on your mind. So that is the development of image on your mind, instant formation of image in your mind. Then another important feature of imagism is use of specific, not general words, that is concrete. That is direct word, use of direct words, exact words. Another important feature is careful use of adjectives. You cannot use adjectives rampantly. Instead, you have to choose adjectives carefully. And not only that, you attempt to freeze a single moment in time and capture the emotions of that moment. So, a short moment is captured here. Then also you could see ideogrammic method. Ideogrammic method means a technique which allowed poetry to deal with abstract content through concrete images. So here abstract content is dealt through concrete images, very specific images. Okay. And also you could see the influence of haiku and tanga verse forms, which are verse forms of Japanese and Chinese literature. Okay. Haiku means it's a 3-line poem of 575 syllables, and tanga means it's 5 lines poem of 5757 and 7 syllable. Okay, now the first anthology under Imagism is Day Images. It came into existence in 1914, and as a part of the early modernist movement, Imagism was launched in 1912 by Ezra Pound and Hilda Doolittle. But you must remember one thing, the father of Imagism is T.E. Hume. His concept was modified and made practical by Ezra Pound. Okay, now according to Ezra Pound, he defined Imagism uh, based on 3 principles. One is direct treatment of the thing, whether subjective or objective. Then the second one is to use absolutely no words that does not contribute to the presentation. And the third one regarding rhythm, to compose in the sequence of the musical phrase, not in sequence of a metronome. Now let's define what are these points. Now, first point, direct treatment of the thing, whether subjective or objective. It means to carefully observe and describe phenomena, whether emotions, sensations, or concrete identities, and to avoid vague generalities or abstractions. Here, Pound wanted explicit rendering, be it of external nature or of emotions, and he proclaimed, I quote, a strong disbelief in abstract and general statement as a means of conveying one's thought to others, unquote. So, here, what Pound tries to say is that direct treatment of the thing. You need not present the thing in general terms. You can directly present it, whether it be subjective or objective, doesn't matter. Okay, now the second point, to use absolutely no word that does not contribute to the presentation. Here he means to avoid poetic diction in favor of the spoken language and to condense content, expressing it as concisely and precisely as possible. So here he recommends the minimum use of words, economy of words. That is what he focuses on, that you need not use so many words. You should use words accordingly or as per the need. Okay. And the third point regarding rhythm, to compose in the sequence of the musical phrase, not in sequence of a metronome. Now, a metronome means it is a device that makes a regular repeated sound to show a musician how fast a piece of music should be played. I repeat, metronome means a device that makes a regular repeated sound to show a musician how fast a piece of music should be played. That is musical treatment. So, by this, what he means is to reject conventional metrical forms in favor of individualized cadence. Each pound declared should have a rhythm which corresponds exactly to the emotion or shade of emotion to be expressed.
Now, let's go through this poem in a station of the metro. Now, before explaining this poem, I would like to raise a few questions to you all. I'm sure you all have the experience of commuting by the train or waiting on the platforms or railway platforms for your friends or for your train or for your dear ones. Okay, during this time, my question is, have you ever observed people around you? Have you ever observed their gestures, what they do, how they move, what they talk, how they behave, etc.? So keep these in your mind and then let's go through this poem. Okay, now the lines goes like this. The apparition of these faces in the crowd, petals on a wet black bough. Now, before coming into these lines, I would like to justify the title, In a Station of the Metro. Now, you know what is a station, right? Station means it's a stopping place. It could be railway station, bus station, or even airport. Okay. And here he talks about the metro. Now, what is a metro? I know you are familiar with metro. It's the short form of the French word metropolitan. Okay, and this refers to the underground subway system in Paris. Here it refers to the underground subway system in Paris. Now, when the poet wrote this poem in 1913, Paris was considered as the most modern and sophisticated city in the world. And it said that metro station came into existence in the Paris, and especially La Concorde station was very famous during those time. Hence, from the title, you could understand that here the poet is trying to explain his experience in the metro station. Now, let's see how he is talking about his experience in the uh, metro or in the subway system or in the subway Paris. Yeah, let's see. The apparition of these faces in the crowd, petals on a wet black bough. Now, let's go to some words, some important words in these poems. Now, as you see, these poems are just 14 words. Yeah, there are no more words, no verbs, only few words which are very necessary for these poems. There is no extra words which are unnecessary as well. Now, the apparition means, what is the literal meaning of apparition? Yes, what is the meaning of the word the apparition? Yes, apparition means ghostly figures, maybe shadows, or maybe blurry faces without emotions. That is people or images coming and going, appearing and disappearing. Okay, so apparition could be a ghostly figure which does not last for a long time. Okay, now here phases. What does the poet mean by phases? Yes, he mentioned people or he mean people as phases. Now, just take that phrase, the apparition of these phases. Why do he call people as apparition of these phases? Have you ever thought about that? Yes, probably because he's not familiar with the people who are moving around and he feel like people are coming and disappearing. You also might have got such experiences when you were waiting for your train on the platforms. So when the train arrives, some people get down the train, some people get board the train, and at that time you find a busy movement on the platforms where you are not able to recognize the faces of the people. So this same experience, uh, the poet experiences when he was standing La Concord station. Okay. Now, at the end of that line, you could see a semicolon. Now, what does this semicolon mean? I know you all know that it's a punctuation. Now, in this poem, he uses it to um, reduce the number of words. Instead, he uses semicolon. Okay. Now, the first line is complete with this, the apparition of these faces in the crowd. Okay. Instead of the semicolon, he could have used some word like, or as, but he does not use that. And this is the speciality of Imagist poem. Now, let's see the second line. Petals on a wet black bough. Now, petals means you know that it's the leaves on of the flower. Okay, it's on a wet black bough. I mentioned earlier the condition of the subway station in the Paris. It's underground, so obviously it would be dark. Yes, it would be dark, and depending on the season, it would be wet. If it's springtime, it will be wet. And also, it's like this railway station or this substation or this metro is like hanging on a black bough, means the darkness. Since it is underground, you cannot see natural light there. Okay, so it's dark, and this also indicate that it could be a boring place because nobody would enjoy standing on the platform recklessly for a long time or waiting for a long time. So he finds this as a boring place, and it is at that point of time he thought about writing this poem. Okay, now let's make a comparison between these two lines, or let's join these two lines now. The apparition of these faces in the crowd, petals on a wet black bough. Now, if you negate that semicolon from there, you could read like this: the apparition of these faces in the crowd, like petals on a wet black bough. So, what the poet trying to do is he is not making a comparison, instead, he says that the apparition of these faces is equal to petals on a wet black bough. Yeah, I hope it's clear. Now, the apparition of these faces in the crowd could be, he could be talking about the busy city life. And at the same time, he is reminding us of nature in the second line. And he talks about nature, and that too in a descriptive way, like he's making a contrast between the petals and wet black bough. Petals in a positive sense because you could see beautiful faces of people, and that faces is compared with the petal. And where are we waiting? On the platform, which is like wet black bow. It is a boring place. The metro, at the metro, which is a boring place. So he is making a comparison between the busy city life and nature. So this is the literal meaning of these two lines. So you should keep in mind that phases are compared to petals in this poem, and wet black bow means the subway station, underground subway station. Okay, and definitely it is a boring place for them. And here phases means it is people, and apparition means unfamiliar people. They are blurry faces which appear and disappear. And because he is not familiar with any of them, he just see people passing before him uh, in different directions. Okay, I hope it's clear. Now let's see some points about the poem. Now, as I said, this is an Imagist poem published in 1913, and this is considered as one of the leading poems of the images tradition. And this poem attempts to describe Pound's experience upon visiting an underground metro station, La Concorde in Paris. We talked about this in the previous part. And as you noted, there are only 14 words in this poem. Okay, and it said that this poem is written in Japanese haiku style. Okay, we'll analyze it in the coming part. So here Pound's process of deletion from 30 lines, 30 lines to only 14 words typifies Imagism's focus on economy of language, precision of imagery, and experimenting with non-traditional verse forms. So basically, he wrote this poem as 30 lines, 30 lines. Okay, and then he reduced it into 14 words. So that made this poem an epitome of imagism. Now, another thing which you could notice in this poem is the number of words in the poem is 14 words. Now, you can equal it with a number of lines in a sonnet, that is 14 lines. So, in some way, these number related with sonnet as well. Like in the first line, you could see 8 words, that is the apparition of these faces in the crowd, and it mirror octet. And in the second line you could see 6 words, that is petals on a wet black bough, 6 words, that is sestet. So it is almost like a Petrarchan sonnet. It just resembles like a Petrarchan sonnet. So this is another feature of this poem. Next, you could see set of images used in the poem conveys rare emotions Pound experienced at that time. I talked about the apparition, phases. Phases means it is equal to petals. Then the black bow means it is the metro station. Okay, so here he could also relate it with the social structure as well. Okay, so there are set of images used in this poem and that conveys his rare emotions. Then, the heart of the poem is the mental process that links the first and second lines together. So, this whole poem is considered as a single metaphor. Okay, you cannot separate these two. It is joined together to form one single metaphor. So, the mental process is the heart of this poem. And this poem is also extremely important in the history of modern literature, and it is one of the monuments of the artistic movement known as Imagism. Now, let's see how this poem is considered as a haiku. And I know you all are familiar with the feature of haiku. Yeah, haiku means actually it is 3-line poem. Okay, short poem which consists of 5, 7, 5 syllables in each lines. Okay. Now, in this short poem, there are certain features for this poem. You know that it should be short, it should be crisp. Only 5 syllables should be there in the first line, then 7 in the second line, and 5 again in the third line. But here, Pound writes this poem only in 2 lines. Okay, now how could you consider this as a haiku? Now, you know that apart from Japanese language, you cannot achieve the same effect when you write it in some other language. So that's why probably Pound does not follow the strict rules in creating this short poem. That is, haiku rules are not followed strictly. Now, there is a difference between the Japanese version and that of Pound's poem. But at the same time, these two poems have similarities as well. So, in what way this is considered as haiku? There are two important points to be noted. Now, Japanese version often features a contrast between two events or images. Same is happening here as well. Here, Pound's poem clearly contrasts the two images of the faces in the crowd and the petals on the bough. Here the poet attempts to fuse these images into one, and this satisfies one feature of haiku. Now the second important point is Japanese haiku usually has a word that lets the reader know the season of the year. Pound's poem also has a word petal, and this indicates the season springtime. Okay, especially you can note the line petals on a wet black bough. So petals means flowers are blooming. It could be cherry blossom flowers in Japan. Okay, so it denotes the season springtime. So traditional haiku poems contain a word called kigo that hints at the season of the year, and hence uh, Pound's poem in a station of the metro satisfies the second point as well. So this is how this poem could be considered as a haiku. Now let's see how Pound's in a station of the metro is considered as an imagist poem. And you know that Pound defines three principles of imagism. One is direct treatment of the thing, whether subjective or objective. Now, in this poem, he uses non-linear structure. Yes, non-linear structure means it's more like an equation. That is, apparition of these phases is equal to petals. That is, both the phases and the petals got equal value. So, first principle is satisfied. The second point is to use absolutely no words that does not contribute to the presentation. So here you could find a limited number of words. That is, you could find only 14 words, and in that, most of the words are nouns like apparition, phases, crowds, petals, and bow. Then you could find only two adjectives, that is wet and black. Then third, you could find prepositions only of, in, and on. Then an important thing is that you could not find even a single verb in this poem. Okay, and articles are also very limited. That is only the etc. is there. So this satisfies or this fulfills his second point, that is economy of words. That is, he used very limited number of words. Now the third point is metronome. That is regarding rhythm to compose in the sequence of the musical phrase, not in sequence of a metronome. So on the whole, you could find a melancholic tone, that is as per the season of the time. That is, no tone, particular tone is used. He wrote it in a free verse. He did, that is, he satisfies the principles of, or this could be considered as an imagist poem. Now let's talk about the major themes discussed in this poem. First one is versions of reality. In this poem, you could see two images are blended into one. The first line denotes the city life or a brevity of human life, and in the second line is mental image. It talks about nature, imagery, which is an imagination. Okay, so two images are blended together. So there are two versions of reality portrayed in this poem. And the second point is the conflict between man and natural world, or man versus natural world. People and nature literally become one, as the blurry faces in the subway become flowers on a tree. So in this line or here, metaphor is used to imply phases are equal to petals on a tree. And also you could note one thing, trees in this poem, the tree is it is wet black bough. Black bough means it could be in the state of decaying. which means this tree is in the process of falling down or decaying. Similarly, man is in the process of dying because man is mortal. So that signifies, so both the tree and man is in the process of decaying or dying. Now the third point is, or third theme is modernization. As I said earlier, Paris was a busy metropolitan city in the beginning of the 20th century, and this poem presents the new technology, that is subway, as the scene of a mystical experience. And even poet and the readers, they are reminded of, that is, we are reminded of the serenity and calm of a Japanese garden in the second line. Next important theme is supernaturalism. Now, the word apparition refers to ghost or supernatural spirit. So here, Pound seems to be comparing the beautiful strangers in the subway to ghosts who appear suddenly and then disappear from your life just like that. There is no permanence. That is, life is not permanent in this world. He indirectly denotes that too. And also, underground subways signify the dark place where the ghost decides. So everything is uncertain. This place is boring. World is uncertain. You know that during World War First and World War First, what was the condition of the whole world? People were dislocated. People were lonely. They were actually in identity crisis even. So they were not knowing what to do and what to do. So this state of dilemma could be seen in this. Now these are the major themes discussed in the poem. And main poetic devices. There are three main poetic devices used. One is alliteration, second one is metaphor, and third one is kigo. Alliteration, you could find alliteration in the last line, that is black bow. B sound is repeated. Okay. And metaphor. In this poem, you could see only metaphor because the poet compared the phases of the people to the petal. Okay, that is, he does not say the phases look like the petals. He says the phases are the petal. That is, phase is equal to petals, and the whole poem is a single metaphor. Okay. And the third important device is kigo. It's a word in traditional Japanese haiku, as I said earlier. And this hints the season of the year, that is springtime. And springtime is indicated through the word petals. Okay. So with that, we come to the end of the analysis of this poem. In a station of the metro is also often associated with artistic movement called Vorticism, which came and went around the time of World War First. Let's brief this poem. Okay. The impermanence of image gives the poem a melancholy tone, as if Pound is contemplating the fragility of life. Besides, he is trying to link a man-made metropolitan scene with the cycle of nature, and he also uses living metaphors, which adds to the fleeting tone of this poem. Another important thing to be noted is flowers and trees, like human beings on the metro, are constantly moving, growing, and changing. Similarly, no two petals will ever look the same due to the changing weather. Therefore, in short, modern man is spiritually dead. He he is a hollow man in every sense. Okay. With that, we come to the end of the analysis of this poem. Thank you.